All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of the Fit 40 podcast. Today, we got Alexa Berg in the house. She is a former soccer player and former IFBB bikini pro who has come a long, long way in her health journey, helps others now to get comfortable in the gym, to kick ass, take names, and I cannot wait to pick her brain. So, Alexa, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Very happy to have you. And thank you, real quick, to Andrew Coates, the man, the myth, the legend, for connecting us and getting you on the show. So big thanks to Andrew. And once everybody's done here, go to Lift Free and Diet Hard podcast. So I have some notes here. I want to cover a lot. But before we get into it, let's tell the people a little bit about your story. I know from me briefly reading up on it, you started off vegetarian, then that kind of fueled you through your sports career, and then we transitioned to the bikini pro. So how does that all happen?
I think everyone does sports growing up and you fall into one of them, and I fell into soccer and got really good at it and went as far as I possibly could as a young age. And then you get to college and you're like, are you going to keep going with that sport? Can you? Is your body physically able? Or do you have any other injuries? Or are you just going to go to the gym or pick up a hobby or something like that? And I went to Purdue, and that was in Indiana, so it's kind of flat out there. It's not really a fun place to go get outdoors. So I feel like people really fell into the CrossFit bucket or the bodybuilding bucket at the gym if you didn't want to just get fat from all the drinking and partying, because people are still trying to figure out how to feed themselves as adults at that age. And they're trying to figure out the alcohol. I was never really a drinker because I was so serious about sports growing up. So I didn't really love that. So I just fell in love with the gym. And I was in a sorority when I got to college, but
I gotta ask
that.
I gotta ask which one.
Really just
yes.
Which sorority?
Alpha
Phi.
There we go.
Right?
I was actually the Alpha Phi sweetheart at West Virginia.
Oh my God, you would be.
But anyway, not to derail us, but continue.
No. Once an alpha female, always an alpha female. No. But I just didn't want to do the parties anymore and all the stuff that was required of the sorority. I really just wanted to do gym, and that in school. And then I had my friends, and the gym brought me those friends. So I was really big in the gym community. But I wanted to have a coach to teach me nutrition, because I felt like I kind of went as far as I could with my physique, and I was doing a lot of cardio. I was doing a lot of calisthenics, body weight, HIIT workouts, things that girls do a lot of the time when they want to push hard, but they don't really touch the weights yet. But then I was throwing down with all these frat guys in the gym, and they were like, well, this is how you do squats. You do 3 sets of 10. And I was like, numbers? And I did that, and they were like, you can do more. And I loved having a guy egg me on and tell me that I could do more. And I was like, bet. I'm gonna be as strong as you've ever seen me. I'm gonna make you a little scared. And then I hired this nutrition coach to help bring it in all together. And my body just changed overnight. And she suggested I do a bodybuilding competition. And she was a bodybuilding coach, but I never really thought about doing that. And I did a show, got first runner up overall for the whole show, got qualified for nationals. So then I went to nationals 4 weeks later, the first one of the national circuit, and got first runner up overall again and turned pro. So at that moment I was like, wow, that happened way faster than it should. And I'm a big deal. This is awesome. And then I just started doing pro shows until my body was like, I'm done. And I ended up in the hospital with a mental health storm, a thyroid storm, which means your thyroid goes from hyperthyroidism, so too fast, to too slow, hypothyroid. And then you have a whole bunch of other symptoms. And then I had gut issues, and my hormones were tanked. So progesterone, estrogen, testosterone tanked. And then it took me months to get the mental health episode under control. And then I was living with all this shame around the fact that I was this unhealthy, healthy person, because on the outside, I objectively still looked like a bodybuilder, but I had all these illnesses now. So I kind of blamed bodybuilding for that, but it was also just I think the extreme that bodybuilding made me have to go to. Anyways, that's my big story.
Oh, no. I'm going to stop there. I wanted you to keep going because I'm taking so many notes over here. There's so many ways we could go with this, but I love how you just mentioned, like, for starters, the whole looking healthy, but not really actually healthy, because I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize when they see people on the covers of magazines, when they see actors, when they see people on stage, and they're like, wow, they look incredible. They must look like that year round. And it's like, no, like, this is like a brief snapshot, and there's a price.
Yeah, and, like, you can bounce back, you can wean it back, but even if you like, I have intentionally put on fat. I have intentionally stopped working out for months on end. When COVID hit, I took that as my opportunity to just be like, I'm gonna counteract all the gym that I've done, and I'm gonna just sit on the couch, I'm gonna go for walks. I read a couple books that told me to, like, if you wanted to get your period back, because I lost my period for, like, 8 years, and none of these bodybuilding coaches were remotely concerned that I didn't have one. And it
Yeah.
just made everything worse. So when I finally came off birth control and was like, I'm going to try and get my period back, but I was like 10% body fat. So I was like, okay, I'm going to increase my calories. I'm going to stop working out for a little bit and just go for walks, maybe yoga, but I hate yoga. So that wasn't really going to happen. And I put on fat, became very estrogen dominant, skin broke out, felt very weak, couldn't even go for hikes with my friends, and my quality of life got worse, and my period didn't come back. So I was like, okay, getting fat and just giving up on the gym is not the answer to getting your period back. So I went back to doing the things that I loved. That made sense. Eating nutritionally dense foods, a diversity. But like honestly, the harder I tried and the more I seed cycled and like got obsessed with the details, no matter how much I could geek out on it because I loved that stuff, I was like, it's not happening. It was when I started drinking wine and going out with my girlfriends and having charcuterie boards and going for occasional runs, which I thought was going to increase my cortisol and make it all worse. It was when I stopped trying and I had the psychological deload of stress everything got better. So I truly believe that to my core that like you can get really in the weeds with all of the science and the data, but if you don't take a chill pill and just like live a little bit, like put aside the healing for a little bit, your body will get back on the same page. So like I really don't try and stress the gym anymore. Like if my body is telling me like you got a lot on your plate. You need to make some phone calls. You need to deal with the stuff that's actually stressing you out and not add a physical stressor on top of all the other stuff that you're trying to heal. And I think that that's ultimately what led to the nail in my coffin. It wasn't bodybuilding. Like bodybuilding is
Mhm.
what built me up. That's what built me better. In the end, it was the extremes and ignoring the cues in your head that say, "Hey, you should just sit on the couch today. Just process what just happened. Don't go to the gym and lift as much as you possibly can to self-soothe. That's not like always the answer. But I'm a very intense person, so like I love to train heavy, and I can perform so good when I'm angry or I'm sad, and it makes the day better. But other times, I should probably do that yoga that I really don't want to do, or just sit on the couch and answer the emails that are giving me stress. So I try and like and pour that onto my clients that like we love extremes sometimes, but there is such a thing as going too far, and I'm a walking example. 8 years later, I still don't have great blood work, but I'm always walking that balance of like I'm going to train really hard, but I'm also going to rest and recover really hard too. And that's what's made me grow like a mutant over the last 8 years. And I've never taken steroids because my health is so perilous. Like I'm not a good candidate, but I've been able to put on muscle without having to use anything. So I think that food and rest is really like top notch for
Absolutely. I
the
think people
solution.
really do downplay the psychological load that stress can place on our body and the side effects that come from having too much psychological stress. And then we dump gasoline on the fire with physical stress and putting ourselves in a calorie deficit. And it's like, well, what do we think is going to happen here? And I also like how you brought up the fact that like your blood work might not be like ideal right now, because that always cracks me up when people are like, oh, they look so healthy. And it's like, how do you see their blood work? Like, how can you see that from their abs? You have no idea.
Yeah, and it's like it's always you're trying to mitigate symptoms. Like the leaner you get, the more symptoms you have. The fatter you get, the better you feel. And yet people criticize you more when you're more out of shape and you can't see your abs as much. But people give you all the dopamine hits and pats on the back when you feel like crap
Yep.
every day. But you're doing it for those dopamine hits. So it's a hard line to walk. especially when you're like used to being like sub 10% body fat and people stare at you wherever you walk. And like then going to the opposite where people don't notice you. And that's why I like talking to my clients, like the people that used to be athletes, because they remember what it was like to walk into a room and have that respect, because you command authority with the muscles. It's just like, hey, I'm here. But then like life happens and you kind of get out of shape and you no longer identify with that fierce athlete that you once were. So it's like we can bring that back. We don't need to go to extremes though, but we can still train hard and identify when you go into the gym, you feel like that beast because you show up for yourself. You're training to get better, not just to have 7% body fat, because that's really not fun.
And I know many people listening right now might not find themselves in that situation where they're that low body fat, but it brings up a good point that there is the real thing that we want to strive for here is the right amount, not the most, not the least, the right amount. And I think a lot of people don't really conceptualize or understand what a healthy body fat percentage is. And when we can hang in that zone, that's where the magic happens. That's where we can ball out in the gym. We can get new PRs. We could feel amazing. We could sleep amazing, and we could live the dream. But it's not going to be like this shredded physique. It's going to be more like a fit dad bod or a fit mom bod.
Yeah, and it's different for men and women, and that optimal fat percentage for your body changes throughout your life. And what you eat does play a difference in how you feel, like where your macros come from. Whole foods over like processed foods, even though something could fit your macros, there could be a whole food alternative that could have more nutrients and almost be like a multivitamin instead of like Pop-Tart or popcorn or something that just doesn't have a lot of nutrients.
Because your weight will act accordingly, but your energy and your body composition will not follow.
Yes. And that's why it's like over the course of your life, like our metabolic rates go down, and we just like, especially as women, end up eating very little food. But that's what you got to do to control your weight. But like, it doesn't mean that you have to feel hungry all the time or just eat these tiny little like protein snacks or starve all day and eat one meal. It's just eating things that are more nutrient dense and higher volume, so you still feel satiated, but you're not eating like
no
much
pigeon
food.
portions here.
And that's not satisfying. It's like, oh, I want to eat this thing, but I don't want to eat this much of that thing. I'd rather not have it at all. But I love to have like a big bowl of something. If I'm going to sit down and eat, and if I can have a big bowl of something, it makes me not want to snack. But if you just like are eating these tiny little snacks all day, because you never have the big bowl that satisfies. So fill the bowl up. I call them ugly meals for a hot body. Is my tagline. Because like I, as a bodybuilder, I eat like very basic foods, but I like to be able to assemble things very quickly, cook them efficiently, and have them taste good. And I don't really care if they look very pretty. And if you can do that, you shouldn't make cooking a problem and an excuse for why you're not getting in shape. So just make an ugly meal for a hot body. Just like throw some stuff together in a bowl that you know is good for you, and have it be satisfying. Don't care. Put some sauce on it. Go sit on the couch. You know you're going to be happy about it later. It doesn't have to be cute.
That is definitely going to be the title. Ugly meals for a hot bod. Now, I like that we're getting on this topic though, because the whole idea of just like, let's get the job done, let's do the thing, it doesn't have to be cute, is a huge thing, because I think social media sets these unrealistic expectations that, oh, you're going to lift like semi-heavy weights, not enough to get bulky, and you're going to be looking a certain way the entire time because you got to stay Instagram ready for all the pictures and everything. What would you say to somebody that has that in their head right now, like, oh, well, I don't want to look like bad in the gym?
I would say like focus on your form. Like you're in the gym. We're all doing the same movements. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm insecure about what I look like or the way that my muscles look or the body composition that I'm at right now, just rely on how well you're training. Just think about if you're doing an overhead press, what are your arms supposed to do? And what is your face supposed to do? You're trying hard. So if it looks like you're trying hard, that's a good thing. So don't get insecure about that aspect, and then move weight that feels appropriate for you. Like you don't have to be Hulk Hogan out here and move the weight that feels uncomfortable that you think is going to make you prone to injury. But also, don't use that as an excuse to not try at all. And like, let's try and like bust some gender barriers here. Like, push yourself. That's where you're going to get better. If the rep is slowing down, that's where you're going to improve. If it looks the same in the beginning of the set as the end of the set, you can already do those reps. I'm not impressed. You're not going to change from that. So get those ugly faces in there. I love those. Ugly faces for a hot body. It applies both ways.
And for anybody who likes to nerd out, they've literally studied and seen, okay, is there any benefit to having these ugly faces? And you better believe that people are stronger when they look uglier. When you try and keep a calm face, it actually makes you weaker because the neurological, I guess, response is not quite the same. So fun fact, lift ugly to get stronger.
Yeah, let your freak face fly.
Yes.
Just let it go.
Now, if somebody right now is listening and they're like, yeah, I want to get to that point. Like I'm on the fence about getting into the gym, but I don't know. I'm a little anxious. I'm a little worried. Like, what would you say to somebody like that?
I'd say, well, first, the gym is a great place to make friends. Like, you're going to find other people that are there that are going to have very similar lifestyles or goals that you have. So you're going to be in an environment where people are like rooting for you and on the same wavelength. So if you're feeling a little bit insecure, a little anxious, talk to literally anybody. And I know that that's even asking for more. So if you're feeling shy, you're like, oh my God, now you're going to ask me to talk to somebody. I'm like, give anybody a compliment in there. I like your shoes. What are you training today? Yuck it up with the guy at the front desk. Like, that'll help alleviate some of your anxiety because this is a positive place. People are in a good mood to be here. We're not here because we're here to suffer. We're not here to punish our bodies. We're here to get better, and all of our friends are here. And if you haven't like talked to anybody in the gym, they're people you just haven't met yet. So go be social. Next, what are your goals? Is it solely down to the way that you look? Because that's going to be a long-term goal that you might not see a lot of satisfaction from immediately. But if you're like, oh, I can't do any pull-ups, and you make it a goal to practice pull-ups, you're probably going to get to 3 pretty soon. You're going to get to 3 pull-ups probably quicker than you are going to get to your ideal body fat composition. So like find those little goals, those performance goals that get you closer. And that's another way to get a dopamine hit. Like the gym is a way to just like dopamine hit your way through life. I feel like I've done the same movements for the last 8 years, and I'm constantly getting little dopamine hits when I do them better, when I get one more inch of range of motion, and I film it, and I'm like, oh, that looked nasty. That was so deep, and I've never gone that low before, and it didn't hurt, and it was really heavy. That's just super exciting. Like, I feel great, and then I can send it to my coach and be like, give me some positivity. Did I knock it out of the park? Like that's the best. And getting to root for other people that are on that same journey who are like making little wins. Just give somebody knuckles at the gym. Dopamine hit. Like there's easy ways to reduce the anxiety. One big one is wear an outfit that makes you happy.
Love that.
I think that's a big one. Like wear an outfit that makes confident about yourself. But if you're a dude and you're like, I'm not wearing an outfit that looks like a Power Ranger outfit like all these girls out here, how about wear a funny t-shirt or a shirt that's your favorite color or that shows off your muscles in a cool way or that matches a specific pair of shoes that you wanted to wear so you just like all look cleaned up, hat, everything matches. Like pull it together. Then when you see yourself in the mirror and you're putting in full effort, you're like, who's that guy? That guy showing up for himself. That's how you're going to build that confidence. And that's how you're going to be able to talk to just about anybody in the gym because you feel good.
And bonus tip, I would say for any of the guys who are still stuck on that outfit idea, ask your wife, ask your girlfriend for their input. And that way you have their seal of approval. And you're like, I know I look good. They told me I did. They let me out of the house. This is good.
You know, you should be able to say, what's your favorite color? If it's orange, and you have one ugly orange shirt and your wife hates it, but that makes you feel good, full send. You know, sometimes when you're having a bad day, you wear the ugly orange shirt. Orange is my favorite color, and it is a really hard color to wear. But sometimes I want to wear my orange shirt because I don't really care.
I like that you said that because there is bonus points when you could like get a little jab at them at the same time. Because then you come in and you're like, I set some personal bests. I feel amazing. You can't bring me down. And then it pisses them off even more, which is bonus points.
Yeah, It's like you're wearing your like Will Ferrell elf t-shirt that you love, and
It's
she's
so
just like, this is the most
funny
annoying
you
shirt
say
ever.
that
You're like,
because
what
I
up?
have a Will Ferrell "Does Somebody Need a Hug" elf t-shirt that my fiance loathes, absolutely hates, and I love wearing it.
Yeah, see, imagine you're at the gym and you're having a bad day and you set a bench PR with Will Ferrell on your chest. You're gonna be like,
Yep.
let's go. Like nothing can stop you at that moment. If you were wearing a tight Nike dry fit, the
Yeah,
dry fit helped you. Will Ferrell was on your team that day. That means more.
absolutely. Wearing Will Ferrell is automatically going to increase your gains by 5%, guaranteed.
It's
Now,
anabolic.
to bring it back to, I know we were talking about nutrition prior to that, and I wanted to get onto the topic of phases because I know when it comes to bodybuilding and pretty much any athletic endeavor, you need to do it in phases to get the best results. And I think the general public doesn't really grasp this concept. It's okay, I just need to eat all the right foods and lose weight. And then once I've done that, I'm good, right? But that's not the case.
Yeah, it just depends on like what's your goal. Like if your goal is performance and your eating habits suck, like first step is we need to be able to figure out those habits. And we can use the increased food and flexibility in food. We're not trying to overfeed you, get you anxious, get you second guessing everything that we're doing, and we're not trying to starve you right out the gate because I honestly don't know what you've been eating. So I usually take people into some sort of a maintenance recomp right out the gate where we just get them eating whole foods and working on the habits. And like, can we follow a diet, or are we eating out 5 times a week? Are we drinking all the time? Like, do we need to address those before we can really nitpick on the diet? Because unless everything is coming together, I don't know if my plan's not working or if you're just not following it. So if I just start like slashing the calories, I don't really think that's going to work. Like there's something else that we need to solve. So getting somebody to get used to following a plan and eating whole foods usually gets a really big result just by getting rid of the processed stuff. And I would say that that's more in the maintenance. You're not losing fat, you're not gaining muscle or doing anything, but you do end up like losing a bunch of inflammation and looking way better, and like maybe filling out your muscles a little bit. So you're carrying more glycogen in the muscle, you look leaner. And then if they're like getting good performance, then you can say like, okay, do we need to lose fat from here now that our body is just like healthier? Do we need to like lose like 10 pounds of fat, or do we need to actually like build a little bit? So in order to do that, you need to have a direction, you need to have a strategy. We need to either be in a deficit or a surplus, slight surplus. We can argue on how much of a surplus to get the result that we need. We don't need to go crazy with it and put on tons of fat. I think that's like where there's a lot of confusion of like just going to extremes. Bodybuilding just works in extremes, but like you can do like a lean bulk and just go slightly above maintenance and put your body in a more advantageous environment to be accruing more muscle, which is essentially the goal. Versus putting it in a deficit where you're going to be lowering the amount of glycogen in your muscle and losing some fat, but you also look smaller. Your muscles don't look as good when you're in a deficit. But the goal, and I always have to think about this when I'm in a cut, is I need to lower the amount of volume in my muscles, lower the amount of fat over time, and then slowly refill those muscles and then get back to maintenance. That maintenance that I started that client out with, that recomp amount, is usually the happiest place for everyone because you have a lot of flexibility. You can eat a little bit more towards that like slight surplus amount one day, go out to eat. You can also eat slightly less because you weren't hungry, life is stressful, but you're maintaining at a body composition that you like. So there's ultimately all of these are phases, but there's a
Yep.
reason for what we're doing. And usually we're seeing the result of what we're doing pretty quickly, whether that be just losing the inflammation, figuring out the habits, or we're trying to get small and everything is getting small and it's annoying, or we're growing and everything is getting larger and clothes aren't fitting, but PRs are going up and other things are happening too. So what's the goal? Stick to it. Don't get like wishy-washy. Otherwise, you'll see a lot of people who are like, I'm going to grow and I'm going to grow a big butt. And then they start increasing their calories because they've been under eating for so long. But then they're like, oh my gosh, everything is growing. clothes aren't fitting, and my weights are going up, and I'm super excited about that. But oh my God, I'm also fat and my abs are slightly soft. So I need to undereat. So then they eat a little bit more and then they go back to undereating. And then they eat a little bit more. It's like, girl,
Yep.
what you doing? Pick one. Like, we just need to either grow or we need to lose. But like, when we're losing, we're losing. And we'll get there faster. We'll get to the goal faster if you just pick one and don't get
Yeah, because I know
wishy-washy
that
on it.
fear of gaining is a very real thing, especially like I know in both populations, men and women, but especially like I work pretty much mainly with women, and that's always a point of concern. It's like when we raise calories, I really don't want to gain body fat. So, how do you like to field that when somebody says, like, I really just don't want to add on that fat, but I do want to add on muscle?
I mean, it comes with the territory. Like, you're gonna increase fat and muscle all over. Like, your weight is gonna go up. But hopefully, if you're doing it right, you don't have to have a ton of fat. And if you're eating it from the right food, the fat distribution, the where the fat goes on your body is like pretty good. But if you stopped working out and just ate a bunch of processed food, the way your body would wear that fat would look way different. So but if you're increasing those calories and your weights are going up, that's a dopamine hit. Your butt looks bigger. So that's like the whole goal. You want more muscle. So you want certain parts of your muscle to be big. Focus on the ones that you're excited about. And probably change the people that you're looking up to on Instagram and stuff, like idolize or start unfollowing the people that are like super, super tiny, and like put some muscle mommies on there that you're like, I'm in my growing phase. I want to make sure that I'm giving myself the environment that gives me like positive reinforcement that like
Yeah.
this is a good thing. But there are a lot of images on social media that's like smaller is better. And we're trying to fight that when we're in the gym. So like find people that you want
Yeah.
to look up to, and know that like there is a means to the end. Like you're going to increase a little bit and it's going to come down, you're going to shrink, and then you're going to find the happy medium again, and then you're going to go through it all over. Like this is the whole course of your life. You're constantly accruing a little bit of muscle and a little bit of that fat, losing the fat, holding on to as much muscle as possible, getting to your happy medium, and then being like, I'm lean enough. I have a little bit more muscle, but I actually want more muscle. Well, back to the growing season. Like you're gonna accrue a little bit of fat, but we're gonna lose it again. Like it's long-term
Yep,
goals,
absolutely.
always.
And I'm glad you brought up like potential examples of people to follow because after taking a look at your media, I'm like, you do an amazing job of this, like putting it out there, like realistic expectations, like this is what you should be going for, like this is how you get these results. Can you think of any others? Like, because I'm obviously putting your Instagram down here so everybody can click away and follow you. Can you think of any other really good examples that if somebody listening is like, yeah, my feed is full of those types that I don't want on there, like how do I find these people like Alexa?
God, I'd have to look around, but like a lot of bikini pros, like I think the bikini pros now that are competing are all big girls. Like they got stacked legs, and I love that. It makes me want to work harder. And the thing about bodybuilders is the people that are like most muscular aren't always there naturally. And they're not always the strongest person. So that's what I didn't like about bodybuilding. And I'm kind of a hybrid. I'm retired. I can do whatever I
Yep.
want. I look probably way different than the standard now. I just want to be strong, but I also like bodybuilding. So some of the people that I look up to are like CrossFitters or
Like
rugby
actual
players.
athletes
Like
where it's like it's
what is
not
her
they're
name?
just trying to look cute for Instagram.
Yes. No, but they're just like
Yeah.
real life badasses. And like
Alona
what is her
Meyer.
name?
Yeah.
Iona. Yes, that's who I'm thinking of. Like she is the epitome of cool in my world. It's like she's a badass on the field, but she's so funny. She's so real, and she like stands up for what she believes in, like publicly, and she uses her voice. And I'm like, yes, I will go into the gym and slay some gender norms. I'm gonna wear some lipstick while I do it, and that's
Yep.
literally
Yep.
her.
Because it cracks me up thinking about like the only guys that really have any issues with any of this stuff going on are the ones that you don't want any part of. Like the ones that are really like the people that pop into people's heads when they're like, oh, this person's going to give me a problem or I'm going to get harassed at the gym. Like it's such a tiny percentage. Like most of the people at the gym community is freaking awesome.
Yes. And like the big strong muscular dudes are going to be the nicest ones that are going to be there supporting you and being like, let's get stronger, girl. I saw that lift, way to put out full effort, knuckles. It's the small guy that's gonna be like, oh, look at her face. Like, she's trying so hard. It's like, bro, it's a gym. Why
Yeah.
aren't you
That
trying
was
hard?
only
Get on
that
the
not
ground.
trying was cool in high school. It's not cool as an adult.
No, no. It's land of tryhards when you're an adult. We're just trying to,
Yep.
get by. Wear the fun Power Ranger outfit, try really hard, go home, rest. Hopefully you're not hurt, so you can do it again. Like, it's hard
Absolutely.
life out there. But
And I'm glad that you kind
what
of
were you saying?
like capped it on that, because the next thing I wanted to go into was the whole mental health journey, because I know it can be a lot. Like, we lay
Yeah.
out all these protocols that are like, you got to gain, you got to lose, you got to do this, got to do that. But at the end of the day, nothing really gets done if we're not right upstairs. So what were some things that really helped you get to a good place where you could be not only taking care of yourself, but now to that next level of inspiring others and coaching others?
I think just like bodybuilding always rebuilt me. It taught me so many principles that I never could forget. You can't unlearn these things. You can't unlearn what protein is. You can't unlearn what is peanut butter. Like, you can't just forget these principles. So even if I was like, oh man, like, I'm being obsessive with how much I'm tracking my food and I look jacked and everyone keeps telling me, good job. I was unhealthy and I needed to use that same knowledge of nutrition to like get better, because I saw other people doing it and I was like, I'm not going to blame the whole sport on my problems. That gives up control and like makes me not love the thing that I love so much. Like, that's messed up. So being able to like seek out my own research and eat more, be bold enough to eat more. I think that's like the number one thing that every girl is afraid of, is just eating more and getting fat. I've done it. I've stopped working out. I tried to see, like, I honestly saw how much overweight I could get if I just gave up for a little bit. And it didn't scare me that much. And I think being able to look in the mirror at her and knowing that I did it intentionally in order to save my health, and know that was, one, not the answer, but two, that I still had like a deep sense of self-love because I was in control the whole time. And it wasn't like, oh, this is a result of binge eating and emotional eating and sadness and turmoil in my life. It was, I had to eat a little bit more. My health wasn't so good. If other people are going to say you lost control, I'm like, well, screw you. I needed to do this for me, and it was really brave. And now I know that no matter what phase of dieting I'm in, I'm always in control. And if I start to like not like the way that I look, I know exactly what to do to fix it. And bodybuilding taught me that. And that's what I try and teach people, is like, it's the principles of bodybuilding, but you don't have to go and do a competition. You don't have to go to those extremes, but the principles still apply. It's ultimately a calorie deficit or increasing your food over time. But you don't have to be aggressive with it. You can just eat a little bit more and train hard as hell and then cut. Yeah. And you'll look better. You just don't have to be crazy and extreme with it. But you also do it to some extent. So it's
yeah. And I think a lot of people do want that sense of control of like, as long as I do X, Y, and Z, like, I know I can control the outcome. But unfortunately, so many people don't find themselves in that place, because I know when it comes to bodybuilding, especially, like, all the pros and even the amateurs too are like, to place well, are pros at being brutally honest about their nutrition and about their efforts in the gym. And I think that that's something that can be learned from that community, because a lot of times it's like, well, I went out to this restaurant, I think I ate like 300 calories. It's like, no, you ate like 900 or 1,000. It's like, well, I feel like I tracked all these calories and I should be in a deficit, but you only tracked 14 out of 30 days. It's like, what are we doing here? You don't have that control because you're not giving yourself the control.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't want to be that harsh on themselves. And then you want a coach to be harsh on you, but then you need to be honest with your coach for them to like give you the feedback in order for you to change your behavior. But if you could just acknowledge in yourself that you weren't reporting some of that behavior, or going out to eat causes you to be inaccurate and have to guess, maybe you should go out to eat less. You are in control of that behavior. You are in control if you decide to spend your time that way. If it ultimately comes down to social engagement and you want to spend time with somebody, ask them to come over to your house and make something together. Go grocery shopping, pick out the ingredients, make something for fun, and spend time with that person or have a conversation, go for a walk. Like if it ultimately comes down to that person, don't use food as an excuse. Like, oh, this person asked me to go out and I couldn't say no. I'm like, you could, but you chose not to, and then you didn't follow your plan, and then you have to tell your coach that you didn't follow your plan, and then make up an excuse why you didn't. It's like,
Yeah.
how bad do you want it?
And you could take that opportunity too to try on a new label, because a lot of times we get stuck in these labels of, oh, I'm the people pleaser. I'm the person who just can never say no. Where it's like, why don't you just try like for a week? Just be the person that doesn't do that. And then see how empowering that feels and see how amazing it's like, oh, now it's easier to stick to my goals. And another thing too, it's like we also got to acknowledge this shit's going to be hard. Changing your body is not easy. It really is not easy because there's a million freaking factors floating around. But if you do some of the basic stuff that Alexa just told you, you're going to have a whole lot more control in the situation. It just comes down to accepting the fact that it's going to be hard.
I think also, like, for me, nutrition was never hard, but it was because the plan wasn't bad. I liked my food. So if your plan feels like prison, get a new plan, get a new coach. Like the food on your plan should be easy to get in, and you should have some say in it. I believe that to my core. You should be able to be like, I have consent. I can definitely get these foods in every day, and I look forward to them. And they honestly sound better than other snacks or vices that are offered to me. So I feel like I can be consistent there. If you're still not able to follow that plan, well, we have a problem. But you should want to adhere to it. And then over time, like it's easy to eyeball your portions because you're doing it all the time. And you look forward to it. Your body starts to prepare for hunger. You start to get full at the same time. And then if you have a leg day or have more calorie expenditure that day and you get more hungry, great. You know that you burned more. Like you're aware of it, that
Yeah.
you did more. Versus when you're resting and you're used to getting a certain amount of calories every day and now you're not burning as many and you're like, I'm not as hungry. Wow. Like we're eating efficiently for our needs and you're aware of that. I think that this is just knowledge that you'll get the more that you diet and try and gain weight over time, and do it all the time, is like you get really in tune with your body. And this is your machinery. You're in charge of this car. And you want it to last a really long time, so you got to put the right gasoline in it and take care of it. Check under the hood, get your blood work done,
Yep,
and see what's going on.
absolutely. Because when you have all these things firing on all cylinders, you have honest feedback and you can make those choices. You can make those decisions to better your life. But if you're operating in this gray space of, well, I feel like I'm doing the right things, I think this is right, it's like you're never going to know for sure and you're going to be stuck and you're going to be a victim of your own circumstance. But you take control, you take the reins, whole lot better that way, right?
I think ultimately everyone wants to diet because they want control. They don't want to just look in the mirror and be like, how did I get here? It's like, well, you got there, but you can get yourself out. And if you have 3 days of taking really positive actions to do everything that you can do to get yourself out, you will fundamentally start looking in the mirror differently. Even if you don't look any different, you will look at yourself differently because you are showing up for the right behaviors that are going to get you out of the situation that you got yourself in. It's the life is happening to me and my emotions are leading me to do this, or this food just jumped in my mouth. It's like you are in control. It's the lack of control that makes you not like yourself. But if you can get a little bit of control back, you don't have to look any different. You're going to start to feel better. So I love control when it comes to
It almost
food and the
sounds like
training
that
part.
old adage where it's like nothing tastes as good as being skinny or having abs or whatever. It's like nothing feels as good as being truly fit. When you're eating the right foods, when you're staying active, when you're keeping promises to yourself, nothing feels better than that.
Yeah, I think the adage was nothing tastes as
Yes,
good
that
as
one.
skinny feels. And like being a bikini pro, there were definitely phases of my life where that was so true. And that's really sad because like I was so used to eating tilapia and asparagus and like having like just no body fat ever anywhere. And I was like, yeah, couldn't imagine eating candy if I tried. But now I eat really healthy, but it's Cadbury egg season. I had a whole handful the other day, a couple handfuls in a row, and I don't look any different. But I am way happier. And I don't feel like it's a whole hop, skip, and a jump away from being 7% body fat to being like 18 and being
Yep.
way happier.
Yep. Hey,
Anyways,
I mean,
eat the candy.
everybody listening, like Alexa is an example right now of like, hey, you can have your cake and eat it too. You just got to do things the right way.
Literally. And it's so much better. Once you are empowered with that knowledge of how to go about your nutrition, you don't feel like you're in this existential prison with your nutrition in your body. Like, you know what to do. You know how to drive the car. You know how to like get skinny if you want. But like we were talking about earlier, like you're not going to necessarily feel that awesome when you're on that diet. Like for me, like I just recently did a cut the after this big fitness convention, and I was doing it for like 16 weeks and I looked great. But then all my autoimmune symptoms started adding up. And so like my hair started falling out a little bit. My fatigue was really, really high. It'd be like 11 o'clock in the morning and I'd be so tired. And I had gotten like 10 hours of sleep, and my gut issues started getting inflamed. So I was just like distended and inflamed at all these little foods. And I just knew that I was like, I had been really low carb for a while, and it got me a great result. I kept my fats and my proteins super high, never felt like I was really starving or anything. Bowel movements, sleep, everything was really normal, but it was just, I was pretty low carb. And it was causing more issues for me. So I increased my carbs. That was when my diet was over, and then I got myself out of there. And I know that if I want to go and lose a little bit more fat, I can do that. I just won't do it for too long, to the point where my body is like, I'm done. And we gotta listen. We gotta listen to what your body's telling you to do. That's what I don't like about bodybuilding, because you can't necessarily just decide to stop when you don't feel good anymore. That's
and
hard.
that's also why I think a lot of people don't realize, like when it comes to the issues, like you said, for example, like thyroid issues, like Hashimoto's in particular, and just these hormones just tanking, even with that all going on, you had the bodybuilder mindset of tough shit. I still got to do this. I still got to eat this. And you still lost weight reliably. It's not like it just put the pause on everything you were doing. Right.
No, it's never stopped me. Like, because when I was the most sad, I wanted to go to the gym. And I wanted that control. Like bodybuilding made me so in control. I felt like that was magic. When somebody taught me about the nutrition, I was like, I can snap my fingers and look awesome. And it's just because I'm in control of what I put in my body. And I'm not thinking about pleasure and overeating and going out to eat with friends because I have to, and making other people feel better about their food decisions by what I decide to eat. Like, I was just like, I'm selfish. I'm a bodybuilder. I'm going to do this. Sorry, not going out. And then I was like super in control. So giving up that control was like not going to happen. So if my parents were, this was like COVID, I got out of college, started living at home with my parents, got a job working remotely. And I never ate with my parents. I refused. I was like, I'm eating my meals. I'm not going to, I don't know how much olive oil you're putting in here.
This is a conversation too many people have to have with their spouses that are cooking.
I'm like, I get that it makes it taste better, but you can't just grease the pan and then put in a tablespoon, and then you finish more oil. I'm like, this is a very liberal use of olive oil, and I get that it's healthy, but it's fat, and it's like I have to track my fat, and if my fat's not super high, that could be my whole day's worth of fat in that salad. That was supposed to be the healthy part of dinner. So healthy things can go way too far, way too quick. And sometimes it's just easier to track your own food and hold yourself accountable to the things that you're supposed to eat on your plan, so you can be consistent day after day. And then when you want to have that one meal out, or eat mom's food, or eat the decadent meal where you don't track anything, you know that going in, that you're just going to have an intuitive day, and you're not going to worry. You're just going to be at one with the olive oil in that moment. But like every day like that, when you get used to just a little bit more monotony and a little less dopamine, those high olive oil moments are super exciting. But we just don't live for that every single day.
You really understand like what a treat is and what a normal day is. And then when you can understand like what a celebration is, where that's appropriate and you could have at it, and that's not the majority of the time you're eating, then that's where you can have your cake and eat it too. You just got to know the balance. You got to know how often you can do that.
Absolutely. And then also having that like moment off plan not give you tons of anxiety. I think because it's very easy for you to be like, oh my God, I ate too much. I'm going to restrict the next day, or I'm going to either do that and do more cardio, or feel terrible about myself and have terrible self-talk and just be mean to yourself. I hate feeling guilty, and I never want my clients to feel guilty. So like, I think it's really good to be on that super clean diet where you're in control all the time, but every 2 weeks, go out to eat. Make a meal with your husband. Like, find something on Martha Stewart's website and like throw fire to the caution to the wind, or whatever they say, and not track anything and be liberal with the Parmesan and just have the decadent dopamine meal, but frame it as such. It's a dopamine meal. It's no longer a functional meal. And if you want to look super good like all these athletes, well, they're not eating for pleasure and dopamine. They're eating for function. So sometimes you have to have a season of that, and then you can get back to more of a healthy balance between function and pleasure. But if you're living for pleasure all the time, every single day, you're going to look like that too.
Yep. That is a great way to cap it off. And I want to keep going and I want to keep asking more questions, but unfortunately, I'm the jerk in the situation that needs to go. But Alexa, before we hop off, where can the people find you if they want to see more of your stuff and see all the content that I just mentioned prior?
My Instagram account is Alexa Berg Fit, and my website is www.alexabergfit.com, where you can learn more about my Build a Body program, which is just kind of like bodybuilding for the everyday man, and the washed up jock, which we all
and
are.
I'll put that down in the show notes and the description wherever you guys are watching or listening, so you don't have to go anywhere. You just click and it'll take you right there. So Alexa, thank you so much for coming on. And everybody, is a big thank you to Alexa. Go ahead and share this with a friend or family member that you know could benefit from this. Like, maybe we said something at some point and you're like, damn, they really need to hear this. Go send it their way. Tell them that Alexa and Brian say hi, and come back for the next one. So again, thank you guys for making it all the way through. Until next time, go kick some ass. I will see you later, and screw the scale. Bye-bye.
Screw the scale.
Yeah, I started adding that one in.